Hi guys, hope you're all well. Happy New Year as well. I think this is my first video of the new year. Let's chat more claying. I've decided today to do a Peridot and lava pendant. Now, I've actually got some real Peridot here. I'll show you the greens first. Now it tends to be like a yellowy green, but as you can see there's lots of different shades going from quite dark to quite light, and there is speckles and spots within it. So we're going to mix a yellowy green clay with some translucent. And I just thought I'd show you some. I'm sure you all know what volcanic rock looks like, and there's quite a few tutorials out there where people have made volcanic rock. Jessima does a lovely one with coral, if you go and have a look at that. Sorry about the banging in the background. I've not a clue what my husband's doing. But yeah, there we go. So there's the lava stone, and again, it can come in different shades, guys. You can get some quite pale grey to like a true black. So I'm just going to use black clay. But again, you know, you do the colours that you like. There's options, isn't there? It doesn't have to be exact. So for the Peridot, I'm going to use some translucent clay. I'm using Cernit, of course. Use whichever you like. We're going to need, I'm using alcohol inks. Now you could use a tiny spot of clay, guys, to do this. A tiny spot of, you know, if you have the right colour of green. All my greens are quite dark. I haven't got a yellowy green, so I thought it would be easier with alcohol ink. And I'm using Ranger, Citrus and Limeade, so they're quite greeny yellows, yellowy greens should I say. We're going to need a little bit of mica. Any of your white toned ones will do. I'm using Perfect Pearls Confetti White, and we're also going to need some black Sculpey. I'm using Sculpey Premo in black. Of course, you use whatever your favourite brand is. And the only other thing we're going to need is some rock salt. Now, I have this in a tub. It's just normal rock salt. There's some big clumps and little clumps. And it works a treat for doing this lava effect clay. So, let's get started. I'll go and, in fact, let's do the translucent. I'm only going to make enough for one or maybe two pendants as usual. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a pendant with the Sculpey part bare kit, and then we're going to put a layer on the back to show through our little hole. Now you could do it a myriad of different ways. In fact, I might do two. One more neater and one, you know, more rougher looking. We'll see how I go with this. So I've got my translucent here, and I'll just roll wherever my roller is. There you are. I'll just roll it out a bit flatter. This is quite firm. It's not as sticky as Cernit can be. But it can go stickier when you add alcohol inks. So if your clay is quite sticky, just leach it on some copy paper for a little bit to draw the excess oils out. And I did a little test piece earlier. This is the kind of colour I'm going for, this lovely yellowy green. And this was just a small piece with one dot each. So I'm just going to do 3 dots of each colour. 1, 2, 3. And this is probably about an ounce, maybe an ounce and a half of clay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was kind of forward, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I won't use my finger. I'm just going to brush this through and let that just air off a little bit before I start to mix it. You see it makes quite a dirty green, but it is still very yellow. It's almost an olive green, isn't it? But as I said, it can come in a myriad of different shades, guys. So as long as it's a palish green, it'll work. Or you could do it with other stones, I suppose. You know, go and have a look through my other faux stones. There's a myriad out there, as you know. You know, try it with different colour combinations. So the Jessima tutorial one, where she makes little beads of coral and lava, it's a beautiful piece of jewellery. So anyway, there we go. I'll just let that air off and I'll go and get this mixed up, and I'll condition some black, probably about the same amount. As I've said, we're just going to make our basic pendant shape that's going to be lava, and then we're going to put a piece of peridot on the back and push it through the little hole we make, like a bit of a peekaboo thing. So I'll go and get this conditioned. I'll condition some black as well, and I'll see you in a minute when that's done. Okay guys, I've got some black here. I'm just going to pop that to one side for a second because we will do the peridot first. And as I do, well, I'll just mention I didn't over condition. I've conditioned it. I didn't over mix the colours, so there's still some little bits of darker green in there. I just thought it might help. So I'll just cut this and stack it. We're going to chop this up as I usually do. For these techniques, you've seen me do this with lots of different faux stone. So I've just got a bit of a block, just makes it easier to cut up. And we're just going to need a little bit of translucent to pop in, to mix in this mix. Not a great deal, guys. I'm just going to pop that much in, so maybe half again. Totally forgot about that. I meant to cut a bit of this bit off before I colour mixed it. So we've just got this piece, and I'm not going to bother conditioning it. It's very fractured looking, with bits of inclusions in, so it won't really matter too much about the state of our conditioning. I'll just get my powder open. I'll do the green first, and we're just going to chop this up. We want it quite fine, but I just want to get it going before I dust it with some mica, because I don't want to use a great deal of mica, guys. You know, it can overpower it sometimes, can't it? Let's just break these lumps up a little bit. And I thought I'd do the peridot bit first, just because it can sit and rest a little bit while we're doing the black. But of course, if you've watched the video, do it your own way, as I always say. Do you, not me. I'm just going to do a light dust of some of these pieces, just to well, it does help it to stop sticking, but you'll be able to see in the beads, I'll pick them up in a second, show you. You'll be able to see in the beads that let's just give that a tumble, that even though it isn't possibly that type of mica trapped in the stone, because I don't think peridot does have that, there are little specks and inclusions, so the mica will just help. You can see on that one really well, looks like little sparkly bits inside. Is it focused? Yeah. So I think the mica will just help give us that illusion of those little speckles and cracks. It just highlights the cracks, doesn't it? I wouldn't put white paint in, guys. I think it would be too much. We just need like the hint of a crackle in there. I know that's a bit smaller. I'll give it a bit more of a dusting. Oh, I overdid it with that, didn't I? But never mind. I'm sure it'll be fine. Let's just... I think that is going to be plenty on there, so I'm just going to chop through this now. And I'll just give it a tumble in that mica. It really does help to keep it separated, doesn't it? And we can't really do it with some of the stones because obviously they don't have that bit of sparkling, but it really does help you chopping when you can get some in. Somebody did suggest trying a bit of talc in colours that don't have mica, so I may have to have a little look into that and see. Apparently the talc disappears, but I wouldn't want to ruin, so I'll have to give it a little test, I think. Oh, that's chopped up lovely. Really does make a difference with that mica in. And again, guys, I'm not the first person to do this chopping technique, although I do use it quite a bit. And I definitely won't be the last, will I? You know, lots of different people do all different things. There's plenty of room for all of us. Okay, I'm just going to give this one last chop through, just to make sure that I've not got too big of a piece in anything. And I think that will be fine. I'll just give it one last tumble to get that bit of loose mica up, and I'll just pop that to one side, and we'll do the same with our translucent. Oh, let me just get them scraps off my blade. Let's just get this chopped into some reasonable pieces first. A little bit of mica. And that should help it stop sticking. I'm just going to turn these pieces over, guys, and do it this way as well while I'm here. Okay, let's get this chopped up. Oh. And again, just spread this out a little bit and get some mica on it. Hope you all had a lovely Christmas and a nice New Year. We've been pretty quiet, really. Went to visit my son and my grandson and my daughter-in-law, and mum-in-law always comes to us for Christmas, which has been lovely because with the C word, I'm not going to say it, it's been quite difficult to see family and friends, hasn't it? No matter how close they are, and of course I, you know, try and safeguard as best I can, because I don't want to pick the pesky thing up, although my son has had it, but he was quite okay. He wasn't really unwell, bless him. Just a bit of a pain more than anything, I suppose, for some people, although for others it's been terrible, hasn't it? You know, I'm not making, of course I'm not making light of folk who've lost family and loved ones. Terrible thing. I think we're just gonna all have to learn to live with it, aren't we? A bit like you know, the flu epidemic, when that's bad. Not much else I think we can do. Anyway, I'll shut up about that. It's miserable, isn't it? Let's not be miserable. Okay. Oh, and by the way, this has been in my list for a good 12 months, I think now. I think maybe Anna asked if I would do it. So Anna, if you're watching, here we go. Look, I finally got around to it for you. And I'm always open for requests, guys. So if you know, you think you'd like me to show you how to do something, or maybe try a simpler version of something you've seen that was a bit convoluted, because I'm good at making things a bit simpler, you know, just let me know, drop me a message. Okay guys, I wanted this to be really finely chopped, so that it mixed really well. I'm just cutting it now and then, trying to spread it out a bit for when I sprinkle the green on. So I am going to have quite a bit more than I initially wanted, because I had to add that extra. So if you can remember, initially just chop a little bit off before you mix your green up, if you're not using a ready mixed green, that is. Okay, so we've got that. I'm now just going to sprinkle the green through. Again, I'm just going to try and break up some of the bigger lumps, guys. Then we've not got clumps of the same. Let's give these a tumble. And just get these bigger bits broken up. I know this seems like a chore, but it really does work, doesn't it, this chopping technique? Okay, let's give this a nice tumble in together. And I am just, if I see any big bits of white, I am just going to break them as I'm tumbling. Then there's not too much of it together. Again, in the grand scheme of things, it won't really matter, guys, honestly. As you've seen from that strand of beads that I showed you, there's, you know, even in the same batch of beads, there's a multitude of different green colours. Okay, I think that'll do. Let's get this compressed together. I'll just get our block nice. There we go. I think that's compressed enough. Okay, and as usual, guys, I'm just going to wipe the excess mica from the outside of my block. And then I think I'll just go and throttle my husband, because I've not got a clue what he's doing, and he knows I'm flipping filming. Right, we'll pop that to one side. We'll get the lid on that before it gets everywhere. Move that brush and get this wiped up. Right, guys, I'll just clean up a little bit and go and wash my hands, and then we'll come and do the pendant base with the sea salt. See you in a minute. Hi, okay, I've shouted at my husband. He apologised profusely and said he forgot I was filming. Typical. Okay, so I've got my black clay here. I've dug out a square cutter. This is a 2-inch one, Happy Hands one, and I've also got this. It's like an abstract circle, if that makes sense. It doesn't make it's wonky, and I thought this would be a good cutout for the Peridot, because it's not got smooth edges. So I'm going to do what I initially thought with this one, then I'm going to show you how to do it by hand with just a blade, just so you know, if you've not got the right things like I have, then maybe, you know, you can still attempt this, guys. So don't need all this obviously, because I've only got that. So I'm just going to cut some of that black off. And this is just a 0 setting on my pasta machine, guys, because it's going to be doubled over, because the Peridot will be on the back. I am just going to give it a slight burnish, because I've got lines down my clay, and I just want to buff them out. Okay, now if you haven't got any rock salt, you could get a couple of different pokey tools and ball tools and just poke random holes in, but I just find the rock salt is so much easier to do it with, guys. You know, as you know, I do mixed media, and I use rock salt for all different sorts of techniques, for texturing and things. So I'm going to cut my square out, and I'm going to put it on my dome, and then I'm going to roll it in the rock salt. Now, if your clay is quite dry, it might not stick to your form, so you could put a teensy bit of liquid on, which I'm going to do, just to make sure that it sticks well. So I shall cut my hole out. As you can see, it's just like a wonky hole. Let's get that out. Come on. And then I'm going to cut my shape, and I think I'll do it so it's off a bit, but I don't know where. Maybe there. Let's get this cut out. I'll just give it a little wiggle like so. Get this picked up. Now this could distort a little bit as I pick it up, guys, but I'm not going to worry about it. Let's just get it picked up. And I think my clay is going to be tacky enough, so I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to leave it like that. Where's my bit of paper? I'm just going to get this patted on to my form quite firmly. That end's got a little bit distorted. Let's just pick that up. There we go. Again, guys, you can do whatever shape you want. This is just what popped into my head. Let's just get that edge cleaned up with my nail. Just save doing it later, although there might be a bit of finishing needed. Just adjust that again. Make sure that it's firmly pressed down onto my mould like so. Now, even though that's quite wonky, I think I'd prefer it. I'll do it on the other one, I think. I'll keep this one like that. All I'm going to do now is roll this into the rock salt quite firmly, so that I've got some big holes and little holes. And as I've said, if your thing isn't sticking very well, you could just pick up like this and push your bits in like so, but I'm gonna keep rolling and pressing, and don't worry about any excess salt on your piece, because we're just going to wash it off when it's baked. I'm just going to press these pieces in quite firmly now, just to make sure that I've got a good dimpled surface, and just give it one final roll around, because I've just noticed I've put a thumbprint in it, and that should get rid of it. Okay, I'm just going to tap, and I'm going to pop this in to bake. Let's just put that to one side. Of course, I try and not be messy, and I've still got rock salt everywhere. Let's just get this picked up. Okay, now what I'm going to do is do another one now, but I'm going to cut my shape out with a knife. Doris Fluff, just so you know you can see a neater version and a neater version and a whatever version. What cutter shall I use? Shall I do a circle? I'll do this shield, I think. Will this fit? Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, so I know that's my shield shape. I'll just gently press that to mark, and I think I'll just do maybe a wiggly line down here, or shall I cut a piece out of the middle? I'll cut a piece out the middle, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my knife and roughly cut a piece out like that. Simple as that, guys. Just a rough hole. Now I'll cut my shape out. Get rid of that scrap. Get my other dome. Again, you don't have to dome it, guys. You know, I just like doing it. Let me just clean that edge up before I pick it up. There we go. Make sure my blade's clean. Get this picked up. And pop it on my dome. Again, just going around, making sure that's stuck. And as I said previously, guys, if you've got an issue with it not sticking to your form, just use a little bit of liquid clay. It won't make any difference to your baking, but it will help it stick, and I mean just a drop. Let me just make sure that's okay. Again, I've done this before. I just pop my shape on and give everything a nudge to make sure that the edges are all something like okay. That's stuck down nicely as well. So I'm just going to roll it in the rock salt again. And again, you need to be reasonably firm to make sure that that's embedded in, because once you've picked a few bits up, it's harder to get bits in. I'm just going to sprinkle a bit on, I think, because I picked some quite big pieces up and it's not quite rolling in. Just give them a press. Make sure we've got some nice markings on there. Oh God, I'm dripping everywhere again. I couldn't be tidy if I tried, I tell you. Okay, I'm just going to run my nail around that edge because the rock salt's just distorted it a little bit. Okay, so we've got two pendants, one with a really ragged hole and one with a bit of a neater hole. I'll go and pop these in the oven. I'm only going to bake them for 10 or 15 minutes, guys, just to harden it off, and then we'll come back and put the peridot on the back. So I'll see you when these have done. See you when I'm in. Hi guys, so these are part baked out the oven. You can see the texture, isn't it cool? I've given them a quick dunk in warm water. I can still see a few salt crystals in there, but I'm not going to worry about that as yet. All the bigger lumps are out. And here's this one, a bit more textured with this one. And I'm just going to get my block. And we're just going to cut some slices off. Let's find what face I want to use. Cut some slices off to make our backing. And as I said previously, guys, I have made quite a bit of this, so I'm just going to pop these slices together to make a backing for both the pendants. And all I'm going to do is push these together so that I know they're stuck. I'll just like to drag my nail, and then it doesn't have a harsh line, it makes them blend better. And I will pop this, I'll just pop this through my pasta machine. It won't be a sec. Excuse the noise. Oh. Okay, so I've got my backing, and I'll just use the cutters I used, if I can remember. Oh, put them away. I'll do the shield first. I'll just cut the shield out of this one. Oh, I didn't press that very firmly, did I? Not that it matters, because we've got to tidy it up. And I've just got my little sponge, guys. Let's have a see which side I like the best. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this on there, and I'm going to use my sponge to push that up into there. Give it a bit of texture on the back at the same time. That's all I've done, guys, is I've just used that sponge to push that up through there. And then I'll just use my little blade, which needs a wipe, to just go around and trim the excess off. Again, guys, take your time, make it nice and neat. You know, we can sand it a little bit when it comes out the oven, but as I say, if it goes in neater, it's a tendency to come out neater, hasn't it? So just trim your excess off. Make sure it's nice and tidy, like so. Oh, caught my nail on that then. I'm just trying not to cut a chunk out of the pendant itself. It's really hard to do this so that you can see under the camera. I've said this before. It's much easier at home when you're not having to do this. So just smooth them edges. Get them little pesky bits off. Again, we can sand these edges, guys, when we're done, just to make sure that it's nice and bonny. But there's one. We'll just put these bits to one side, and hopefully this is big enough. Yeah, I'll not bother using the cutter. I'll just, oh, it's got stuck to itself. Come on, let me see which side I like the best. I'll just pop this on there and cut around. And again, oh, get off. Using my sponge as a, let me just get that placed properly. Using my sponge to help me. I'm just going to push that up through there. I think what I'll do with this one first is just get that edge nice there. And maybe it wasn't the best idea in the world to go off there, but have a play around, you know, see what you think. Just getting this excess off. And again, if you're worried that your clay is a little dry, Cernit is a pretty sticky clay. Just use a little bit of liquid clay on the back to help you. And again, take your time. I'm rushing because obviously I'm on camera and I'm making a bit of a pig's ear of this one, so I'm going to slow down. Okay. Somebody mentioned to me about using scissors to do this, and did try it. Didn't kind of work for me. It made a bit more of a mess, but that might work better for you, to use scissors to trim around, you know, some small nail scissors maybe. I'm not liking that edge at all, guys. I'll just say that. Maybe don't go off the edge when you do yours. Just get rid of that bit. Let's bring a form back in. Just going to pop that on there to help me. I don't like how that edge is finished now, if that makes sense. Although it might not look too bad once it's baked. Maybe I could sand it. Let me just scrape that excess off there. Yeah, that I'm not keen on that edge, but we'll see what it looks like when it bakes. I can always sand it back, I suppose. I've got a bit of a fingerprint on there, but again, shan't worry about it. Okay, guys, I'll go and pop these back in the oven for a full bake. I do think that this is going to be my favourite though. Kind of looks more natural, that hole, doesn't it? And I'm not too sure what I'm going to do with the back yet. Just give it a press with my sponge because I've noticed a few marks on it. I may put a little bail on the back, don't know yet. We'll see what happens. These are just little test pieces anyway, aren't they? So it doesn't really matter. Okay, I'll go and pop these in the oven and I'll see you when they're baked. See you in a minute. Hi guys, okay, we're done. Now, I really like how this one has turned out. Obviously, they need finishing, guys. I think I'm going to put a bit of resin on this, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I really don't like this one. Tried sanding those edges down and I still don't like it. No matter what I do with it, I'm not keen, so I'm just going to pop that to one side and we'll concentrate on this one. Now, getting in there to sand that up to a nice shine, because I don't want to sand the lava bit, is going to be a bit of a hassle. So I think I'm going to use some resin on it rather than could use some varnish. I have numerous varnishes. My favourite is the Cernit one, glossy, but I think I'll pop a bit of resin on. I think it'll help with the stone effect. Mine looks, that's my test chip, so maybe I didn't put enough alcohol in, but it still looks pretty cool. I do like how it's come out. So yeah, I think I'll use a bit of resin. I've just got to find it. It's that long since I've resined anything that I haven't got any things out. So I don't even know where my little dapping brush is. I'm just going to wet my brush with alcohol. You know I'll do that. It just, with a wet brush, it stops you adding any extra air to the resin. And here's the resin I use. I'm just going to put a couple of little drops on and then just move it around with my brush. I don't want a thick layer, guys. I just want to make sure that the surface is coated, because I think that glossy will work well with the matte of the stone. Let's just give that a little run around, make sure it's done, and I'll just pop this in for a couple of minutes, guys. I'm just letting it run a little bit, then you know it's even. Right, I'll just go and pop this in. I'll see you in a sec. Okay guys, all done. So we've got the nice shiny Peridot in there. Again, I think maybe it needs to be a touch greener, mine. It does look really yellow on camera. It looks slightly greener in real life. But for a quick experiment, it's turned out really well. And the, don't know if you can make it out, the mica has added some really nice like fractured effects within the Peridot. I may have another go at this, guys. Try and make this a bit greener, I think, but you experiment and see what you come up with. Wonder what different faux stones would kind of look nice in there. I think coral would look fabulous. Like black and red always looks cool, doesn't it? And you could do this and pop anything behind it, really, couldn't you? Any sort of pattern peeping through. But there you go, guys. Faux lava with Peridot. And I shall see you all in the next video. Bye guys.